garage to get some food. See it, they got a bit of water and a bit of the beach. Right, well, what are we doing today? Well, we're going to go down the beach and we're going to go have a look at a bit of a forage. And it is blowing around 45-50 mile an hour at the moment, so it's not too bad. I've been in worse. You also see I got my hat on, my woolly hat today, simply because it is freezing cold. Keep the tops of the ears warm. Those are the bits that get frozen in winds like this, especially when it's this cold. I've come down by my boat. I'm going to take it a little bit easier. This is like an easier place to go, although obviously when you go to easier places you will find less of what you're looking for, because obviously they're easier and a lot more people will come down here than make the effort to go to like the boulder fields and those sort of places that we normally go. On top of that, going out into this sort of boulder field area, a long way out, a lot of big rocks, a lot of what we call leg breakers, and in this wind you could quite easily get put off balance, that sort of thing. So yeah, makes it just a bit easier. On top of that, the last trip really hurt my back quite a bit, so this trip I'm gonna ease up a bit. Plus we're only going really for a look. I mean, I'm not expecting a great deal. It is the biggest tide of the year today. It's probably around not far off the 10-meter mark. The trouble is, with the low pressure, it'll keep the tide up, and the wind blowing straight in here will also keep the tide pushed up. So the water's not going to go down as far as we want it to, but hopefully it'll go far enough to find something. Now, I should have gone to the other side of the island. That probably would have made more sense, but I mean, I don't know the grounds that well. I mean, I do know where to go, but a lot of people have the same idea of heading to the sheltered spots. So. Now, I wasn't actually going to go today, but trouble when it's in your blood. I say that and then end up going anyway. You know, I've been brought up with it for so many years that it's kind of in my blood, and I know I just sit at home thinking, damn it, I should have gone, or I sit at home thinking I could be down there, and blah, 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 and all that. Now, they are giving a lot of showers, and they're giving hail showers and all sorts, so we'll deal with that as it comes. So I will try and do my best with the wind with the camera and try and shield it at times. This video might be shorter, and that'll just purely be down to, obviously a lot of the footage will be no good in the wind. And if it starts pelting down with rain and hail, who knows? And how long we're going to be down there? Another question. At the moment, I'm just waiting for the tide to go down, and it is not going down. But I do know here that the tide will suddenly go at a certain point. It has to go down a steep bit, then it hits a sort of flatter bit, and that's where it pulls out. But hopefully it goes far enough to find something, otherwise it'll be a waste of time coming down here. This is not a good place to come on smaller tides. You really need the big tides here. Anyway, we'll get back to you when I'm taking a walk down there. Right, well, there's a lot of rain coming, but it's going down anyway. I've gone with the full waders. They're bloody restrictive, but if it's going to rain, just well be covered. Right, let's go. We're losing so much sand. It's all turning into rocks here. This is where the boats are normally moored. Sheltering from a hailstorm at the moment, or hail. It's coming down. Whew. I had to leg it over here. Hopefully it'll stop. Hopefully it's just showers today and not persistent stuff. Running with all this, I feel like the Michelin Man. Right, has it stopped for a second, or is it going to hit me again? Trouble when you haven't got your peak cap on, you get hit in the face all the time with it. Just found an ancient bowl stuck in the rocks here. Ancient pottery. How cool's that? Wonder how many hundreds of years that's been sitting there. So here we have some oyster tables. Like, they put oysters in the bags which are strapped to the tables. They come down and flip them over over every so often, and I think it's to stop the weed or something like that. And when you find oysters around Guernsey, normally they come off these tables because they don't really occur that often around Guernsey. You get a few, but not like you get in other places. But this is sort of weather that crashes these things. Well, I've just turned this rock, about the only rock I found that hasn't been turned and left unturned. And there's 3 ormers there, but they're all too small, I think. Got one there, another one there, there's actually one down there. I'll get that one down here because it's a bigger one. We'll have a look. See, little babies. Not very big. It's a rock that hasn't turned back, and it's got an ormer on the wrong side, you see. They try to go back under the rocks. It doesn't do them any good if the rock has not been turned back. Now, if you watched my video from last year, or some of my videos last year, you'll know I had, after 9 years using some Abu waders, I bought some Shakespeare ones, and after 2 days they started leaking. So anyway, I went and got a pair of replacements which I didn't use last year because it was at the end of the season. This is the 2nd trip down. Guess what? The new ones are leaking. So do yourself a favour, don't bother with Shakespeare waders, absolute garbage. Again, it's going to be lots of wind. Just put a rock on you to stop you. On that foot, if it shows up, the colours are awesome. It's like blue, completely blue, that one. Right. About scallops getting washed in. How's about that? There you go. Nice big scallop. It's not this normal this side of the island you get them, but things do turn up. Lovely scallop that. That's big and well over the legal size. Like I say, you don't tend to get that many scallops around the centre of the island. I mean, I have had them caught on lines before out in the boat, but that's usually like very deep. The other side of the island you'd find scallops, especially after these storms. Just realised the recording wasn't on. So I've just hooked 3 out. I'm showing them to the camera, and you were turned off. There you go, 3 more. Just from in here. These rocks are kind of piled up. The storm's moved them. bit small, that one. Popping back. So far we just had 5 out of there. In here, maybe. Looks like a good spot. Yeah. The pop rocks back off. I'm going to move these out of the way. Another one. I'll have to check that one in a minute. I think I'll leave it. That one isn't. That's a big one. One. There's probably more down here, but like I say, the water's murky, so it's very hard to see. Worth lifting that big rock. That easy. Right. Well, it's not big, but it's not bad. I'm going to put it back. There's also another one against the rock in there, I don't know if you see that. We won't disturb him. Right, put that back. There we go. I've just found another scallop. Just there. It's a smaller one. See, it's got its shell open just about. How cool's that? 2 scallops. Have a look. Close up now. Yeah, that probably is legal size, that one. It's another legal one. Well, I'm not going to take that one, I'll leave that one. Yeah, that one there, that's a legal one as well. It's only just over, I think, but I'm not going to bother with that one. I'll just take the big one I got. I mean, that's about 10 centimetres this gauge, and that's 10 the whole length, so. Well, I'm going to put someone back quickly. Baby ormer. Right, let's get moving. So I can't hang around now, tide is definitely coming in. I'm going to keep my eye open for any more scallops though. You can see it dries out. We did have plenty of time, but I'm not going to risk it because there's nobody out there today. Well, there was, but they seem to have gone. And I'm not risking my neck. Especially in this weather conditions, they can be very unpredictable. Camera off, let's have a look. All the sea anemones. I need my glove. Just sitting there. And sometimes they go into weird positions. There we go. On the other side. size of that spot lobster. Proper big one there. Nice, there you go. Put him back. He's in there. He's not actually that little. Oh, we'll hook him out and have a look. So you've got to get in this part of the shell here, down, like that, and then out. Ah, it is a small one there. Just a little one. Put him back. Nice coming in anyway. In the scallop, and I've just put 2 back that were on the gauge. They're a little bit close, so I thought I'll let those go. Right, I'm getting out of here. The wind is really picking up now. So, thanks Shakespeare for an outstanding product. Outstandingly shit. That's the second pair. 2 trips and they're knackered. They leak. They haven't even done any hard work. So, don't bother with Shakespeare. Absolute garbage when it comes to waders. There you go. If you made it this far, well done. You've got to be a pretty dedicated foraging fisher kind of person to get this far with that weather. So, yeah. Now, have I been in worse weather than that? Yes, I have. I mean, that was bad. It was bad, but it wasn't bad. I think probably one of my worst. Well, I'll tell you a couple of my worst trips. One of my worst trips was down. I say worst. It was all right, but it was just the weather. We went down the cliffs. We climbed down the cliffs. We went ormering. I was in a pair of jeans, pair of baseball boots, in the water up to my waist, and it was basically, it hit -2 at one point, and it was snowing. And I tell you, that trip, and people think, oh, there's lots of warmers down the cliffs. There isn't. There really isn't. We had 15, I think, that day, and it was one of the biggest tides ever. That's why we went down there, because you need a huge tide if you're going to go down the cliffs. No good going on a small tide. And yeah, another trip, I went down the beach, and I was a kid, and when I came back, my hands, I couldn't move my fingers, they were so frozen. And the thawing out, oh, that was agony when the fingers came back to life. So much pain. Yeah, and there was another trip, I went down in baseball boots, and I tore the sole off the shoe. And it was +2 degrees, I think, that trip, and I walked about, wasn't that far, about half a mile, because I used to live on the top of the hill overlooking the bay there. And I walked half a mile barefoot home in 2 degrees. Yeah, that was unpleasant. So, yeah. But then I found waders, and I bought some Abu waders, and they lasted something like 9 years. They were absolutely brilliant, and they went through a lot more than they go through now. And of course, those other waders, the Shakespeare ones, absolute trash. You know, I mean, I've had 2 pairs now. Well, I had a replacement pair from the pair that leaked on the second trip. These ones, they did leak a tiny bit on the first trip, very tiny amount, and then this time it just gushed in. So yeah, there's no damage to the waders. They haven't torn or anything, that kind of thing. Basically, they are just absolute garbage, and I mean, they're not excessively expensive, but you pay something like £50 odd or something, I think, for those. You expect them to last more than two walks into the ocean. I mean, we literally were leaking when we went into the water on the, you know, within the first half hour. So yeah, not impressed at all with that absolute trash. Really annoys me, that sort of thing, when, you know, they're making such garbage these days, and yet the old ones, damn, they lasted 9 years. I mean, they were fantastic. They were, I believe they were Abu ones. We bought them to go bassing. Then I wore them ormering, and then of course that was, you know, oh, they were brilliant. But obviously, you know, 9 years later, they can't last forever. In fact, they're here. I've still got them hanging here, but they were made of something slightly different, you know. They're like this nylon, and it's like rubberized on the inside, but absolutely amazing that they lasted so long. And I expected the ones I got, I didn't expect them to last forever. I expected them to last for a season, you know, like half a dozen trips at least, but no. So yeah, if I was you, don't buy Shakespeare. Not unless you like throwing £50 notes around. So anyway, we ended up with about 17. We ended up with a couple more, but as usual, if it fitted the gauge just about, I didn't worry about it, put them back. We had enough. Those will be actually going to an older lady who obviously can't go down the beach and get any, so she's having those, which is she'll be really pleased about that. And the scallop is all mine. I don't often get scallops, and like I used to get them because I used to go diving and stuff every so often for them, but I haven't done that for quite a long time now because I actually had a lot of anxiety and I ended up with like panic attacks, which actually caused me to black out randomly, that sort of thing. So I stopped diving around that time, because obviously if I had one of these panic attacks under the water and that happened to me, then well, obviously that would be the end of me. So kind of stopped around then. Now obviously those sort of things, you know, anxiety's always been a big problem for me, but the serious panic attacks that just hit you out of nowhere, they've kind of disappeared, although they arise very occasionally, usually in the middle of the night. You just suddenly wake up in one. It's such a weird thing. But I've been alright, you know, I haven't been too bad with that. So obviously I haven't been scalloping, and so it's nice to get a scallop now and again. Now today actually, I was actually going to go on the east coast. Because of this big storm, I thought if I go on the east coast, I got myself a chance of getting some nice scallops. But to be honest, I couldn't be bothered, because on the east coast we've got towns and Sampsons and all those sort of places. There's so much traffic. The island has got so full of people and so full of cars, and that's the worst place to be. And I hate those sort of places. So I couldn't be bothered. I thought, no, I'm not going to go through all that, you know, just for some scallops. And lo and behold, I go down to the west coast and I get a scallop. Well, I got two scallops, but obviously I threw the other one back. I didn't bother with that one because I mean, it was size, but it was sort of close, and I wasn't going to risk my ormers and a scallop just in case that one was under, but it wasn't. It was definitely over. Now I look at my gauge. My gauge is, I believe the whole length of my gauge is 10 centimetres, which is scallop size limit, I believe. But it was bigger than that anyway, the scallop. But it doesn't matter. One's enough for me. It's fine. You'll be surprised now filling big scallops are. So I'm going to cook that out afterwards. Going to cook that fairly soon actually. So that'll be really nice. But yeah, so there you go. Considering I wasn't going to go foraging, worked out alright. Like I say, decided to last minute decision, but that's just the way it is with me. I mean, I've been brought up with it obviously for years and years, and I've done it all my life, and you know, it's just bred into me, and it's just kind of like I sit around and I think, no, I'm not going, and then it gets to sort of a couple of hours, I'm like, right, I'm going, because if I don't go, then I'll just think about it later on thinking, damn it, I should have gone. Why didn't I go, kind of thing. And you've got to make the most of it. I mean, you're not going to be sort of young forever, you might say. So I've got to make the most of it, you know, make the most of your life and do these things, you know. It's no good thinking about doing them, not doing them, and then regretting that you never did it. So there you go. Right, shall we go and cook a scallop? I think so. So, this is a scallop, and what you do is you get a knife, short bladed one, tough one, and you basically got to put it in there, back there, and cut that muscle. There's a little black muscle in there. You cut that and the shell comes off. So I will do that right now. So once you've cut that muscle, there it is. That is your scallop. And here, so what you do is you've got to clean it. Now the roe depends on the obviously time of year and that sort of thing. This hasn't got much of a roe on it, but it's also living in a very unusual area as well, where it's a lot rockier, you might say. And this stuff in the shell here, this is what they call scallop frills. You've seen this before on videos maybe that I've done. And this is great for catching bream. It'll catch other fish as well, but bream is the main species that we target with those. So I will freeze that down and keep that as bait. There's that pink I was talking about. Pink and green kind of thing. It's been in the rocks, not on the sand. Put the scallop in. Trick with scallops, never overcook them. there you go, one scallop. Now if everything looks blue and a bit dark, it's because I'm in the conservatory. Come in here and try this. See how this scallop tastes. West Coast scallop. This will be a first. From the West Coast anyway. Oh, damn. Oh. I need to get my diving gear on. I'll tell you what, I'm definitely going to go and look for some in the summer maybe. Although, down the West Coast. Tricky one. That is so tasty. That is unbelievably good. Unbelievable. It was worth going just for that. It really was. Right, until the next trip or the next forage. There's a really big tide coming up, so we'll be back for that one.